Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Morning Show, the top morning show in transportation, coming to you every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. We're not going to get into some industry headlines today, but I do have a very special guest and a couple of very special guests. Now, as you can see, we are live at the JOC Inland Distribution Conference here in Chicago, Illinois. You can hear it in the background right now, you guys. It is cracking out here. There are like 600 people outside of where we are currently. They're about to go into session and everything. And we're just here to talk about some reality and everything else about what's going on. There's a lot of great insight that's been shared, and there's going to be more great insight that's going to be continued to share throughout today and tomorrow. And again, I'll be going live here tomorrow morning as well. We're going to go a little bit longer than our normal 30 minutes today because I got a bunch of guests lined up, and we're just here to bring some value and insight out here as always, you guys. I got to give a shout out to my friends over at VHub first, and I'll introduce my phenomenal guest here. She is with the University of Tennessee. Her name is Kate Vytasic, and she's going to provide a lot of information for us here on literally so much to talk about. But before we do that, I got to give a shout out to my friends over at VHub, you guys. VHubApp.com. Hit them up. Access to trailers, whether you're a broker, carrier, or shipper alike, we all need them at some point in time. And right now, especially with the market changing and everything else, and capacity kind of drying up with equipment availability and everything else, you can now use this as a seamless tool. Right now, and the best part about it, you guys, is whether you're a broker or like if you're a small carrier, you don't have to shut your operation down because you can go on VHub and utilize one of their trailers that's on there. What they're working on right now, you guys, is Parable, Arkansas to Orting, Washington. And you get paid $15.50 to move that trailer for them, you guys. And that's on top of the revenue that you get by putting the freight in the back of the trailer. They also have West Palm Beach, Florida to Messina, New York. And then that one is moving for $2,000 US on that. And then they also have Clearfield, Utah going to Henderson, Colorado, and that's $700. And then they also have Montreal, Quebec going over to Calgary, Alberta, and they're moving that for $1,000 Canadian. So again, you guys hit them up, VHubApp.com. My friend Stacey's team and Xavier Campos, they're going to be out there in the audience as well. So Kate, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Awesome. Very glad to be here. I mean, isn't this a buzz here at the JOC event? It's like people haven't gotten together for 2 years. They're so excited.
I know, it's absolutely electric. And yeah, Vitaly, I get it, man. Sound panels and stuff might be there, but we're gonna be fine. We're gonna make it work. It's all about showing up 99% of the time, and that's what we're doing here today. So, Kate, for everybody out there who's watching right now, introduce yourself.
Well, Kate Vytasic, University of Tennessee, and obviously shout out to the Vols who just beat Florida. Love you guys in Florida, but not on game day. But more importantly, the University of Tennessee is ranked #1 in supply chain management by Gartner. So we're pretty good at what we do.
I would say that.
And my specialty within supply chain is buyer-supplier collaborations. So how do we go from saying strategic partnership to actually being strategic partnerships? Because all too often, we sit there and we go to a meeting and we think we're collaborating, but we're really not. We're just conversing without really co-creating and solving problems.
No, definitely. So for everybody out there, you've published 7 books.
Seven books in 10 years. I know. It's like, I'm a little writing machine.
Some people can't even write 7 posts in a month on social media, and you're out there rocking these out. So what's been like the main focal point of a lot of your research in your books that you've published?
Well, we call the concept vested. And you think about that word vested, what does that mean? I have a vested interest in your success. My win is your win. And really the theme around everything we do in this vested umbrella is win-win. How do we go from this buy-sell transactional treadmill? Every dollar, every year, bid and transition to really having true strategic partnerships based on trust and transparency to solve our tough and complex business problems.
So you brought of partnerships there, and that's been like the buzzword for, I don't know, 4 years now. What are you seeing from that front, from a partnership standpoint, with collaboration and everything? Because I think my gut's telling me, Kate, that like shared data, like it's almost like competitors sharing data with each other is going to only strengthen that. I mean, what are you seeing from that front?
Yeah, I think that anytime you have transparency is a good thing. So shared data is going to be great, but if we don't actually do something with the data, it's just there. It's just data. It's not turning into something that's actionable. And so I really like to stress that you have to get beyond the conversation, beyond the data, and look at the business model of how you work. Think about it. Our business, the business of business, is rooted in transactions. I give you $1, you give me a unit of service. I give you $1, you ship my stuff for $2,000 for that truck.
Exactly,
that trailer that you just talked about. Right? And it's all about this deal, this day, this dollar, and we aren't having a different business model where we are creating true win-win relationships. Let me give you my favorite example.
Yes, please.
We say strategic partnership, and go look at your contract, if you even have a contract, right? Because it could just be the spot market. But let's say it's contract logistics, and you have a 1 year or 2 year contract. I bet you dollars to donuts, it has a termination for convenience. Gosh, dear strategic partner, I can fire you just because.
It's funny you say that, Kate, because I talk about this frequently. Contracts and transportation are literally not even worth the paper that they're printed on because of that right there. And, again, I get it. When I'm a fan of the open market. I'm a fan of the free market and everything else, but it's also like, I think that those lessons that are taught when those customers are like, they're going to cut you out at the knees, they're going to rebid, they're going to do all of that, it gives you a lesson to actually develop partners, though, because I've worked with a lot of phenomenal shippers in my career that don't pay attention to the market because they're more concerned about their business than what their competitors are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what we teach at the University of Tennessee is not just the concept of win-win, but how to actually take that theory and put it into practice. Because I can tell you there is a ton of research on the theory behind win-win. Absolutely. Nobel Prize winning research. Our work is based on behavioral economics, John Nash, how do we optimize? And we need to start looking at how to optimize this data and data visibility. It's great if we turn around and use it to optimize between the partners. And all too often, we use our data to optimize for us, for me. And we're holding back. We're not really sharing that data across. We're not collaborating, co-creating. Yeah. I like to think collaboration, but just throw that word away. It's so passé. It needs to be co-create. If you're not co-creating and you have ownership, a vested interest in the solution, where my win is your win, you're just lip service on this collaboration thing. And so people don't have the skills they need. They don't know how to do that. And that's what I'm most proud about. It's not just our research in the 7 books, and I've won awards on all the stuff that we do and on this great research, but that real people from real businesses with real problems come to our program. And one of our classes, this is so cool, one of our classes is a contract for your partnership. And that contract totally guts out this buy-sell transactional way and says, all right, you came to us and you want to learn the art, science, and practice of true partnerships. Let's go through and actually create a team to create that partnership. And I think that's one of the things I'm most proud about is the actionable way that we've taken this theory, Nobel Prize winning theory, and teaching people how to really change how they work with their partner.
So what are some of the things now, because again, I'm right there with you. I think collaboration, throw it out. Like there's a lot of overused buzzwords that I think look great when, over the last couple of years, like a napkin idea could get you Series A funding about $10 million. Like it's like that's what it is. And now, to me though, it's like the real tech players who are truly on collaboration that are truly there. They're the ones who are going to stick around and fight through this market shift, because again, it's like in these economies that we were kind of operating in, the overall freight economy, like it was high, rates were high, everybody was making a lot of money. It's easy to do this job when you're making money. But the real players stick around when it's a normal market, because that's what we're in right now. Is we're in a normal market, and I think like the real tech and providers that are out there that are building up a lot of these things for collaboration, they're going to overly identify themselves over this time frame. I think for the next 12 months.
Yeah, I know. I like to use the analogy of rising tide floats all boats, lowers all boats. Well, you're in a river and it lowers. So in normal, we've got some water. It's not a high tide here. But the pandemic has taught us that we can expose some rocks and weaknesses on our supply chain. And this is why I do love the concept of data and data visibility, because now we can start to see things. But if I'm taking that data or software and I'm using it just to optimize me, so Chris, you just share your stuff with me and I'm going to optimize for me, that doesn't solve the real problems that we have. Today's problems are in between the gaps between the buyer and the supplier.
No,
and they're called, in economics terms, called transaction cost economics. Oliver Williamson, Nobel Prize for his work. So how we actually work together causes this friction, these gaps, and we need to close those gaps. And that's where co-creation comes from.
Why do you think, to that point, why is there so much friction in closing those gaps? Because I think, like, I was thinking about it like this. Like, again, my domestic U.S. truckload is my experience. And you have carriers and brokers and shippers on that regard. And it is those gaps. And I talk about those relationships all the time and how it's easy to do it when it's beneficial for the person who's making those decisions. But as soon as markets shift, it's like all of a sudden you're gutting out their current partners and then bringing in new ones at a cheaper price and everything.
Well, it's hard because exactly what you said. By nature, we're a bit opportunistic.
Yes.
Especially here in the U.S., right? I go to, over half of our students are from outside of the U.S. It's much easier for me to go to the Nordics and people go, wow, you're right. Transparency, we need to work together. Oh, these contracts, these were evil. They were pitting us against each other. Here in the U.S., we're trained to win from the time we're little kids.
True.
And we've been taught opportunism. I think you may know I do a contributor on Forbes. So last week I wrote about an economist named Carr, and from the 1960s. He had this huge article in 1960s in Harvard Business Review, and his whole article was bluffing. Is bluffing acceptable in business? And his story was, yes, it is. It's not only acceptable. If you're not bluffing, then you're getting behind. And that's what we've done since the 60s, 70s, 80s. We put it on steroids.
Yeah.
But it was about competition. Think about it. We have RFPs. Automation, and I'm into automation,
Yeah.
but automation has allowed us to speed up and do bids even more frequently. So we've actually gone backwards when it comes to building strategic relationships because we've treated it as this market. The market has cycles. And I say it's kind of like playing elephants and gorillas. When the market's in your favor, you're the 800-pound gorilla and you go after the other guy. Well, the other guy has a memory. They're an elephant, and they're going to come back and get back. So we fall into this ping pong match. It's back and forth, buy, sell, bid, transition. Instead of taking that energy, this friction, that bid transition, the way that we even approach negotiations, good cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
Seriously, look at the negotiation tactics. These are acceptable tactics today, and they shouldn't be.
I get it. And it's very true. I think from an automation standpoint of the bid cycle, I like seeing what's out there now because it used to be done in an Excel spreadsheet. And let me tell you how much time that took. Normal RFP cycles used to be 6 months. Now we can get them done in 30 days. So I love it from that part of it. And, again, back to the whole contracts and everything piece of it. It was always hey, when the market shifts, it was an acceptable practice from early on in my career and everything where it's hey, when the market shifts, we got to be the first one to the table. We got to be the first one to adjust our pricing and everything else. But that good cop, bad cop thing, that's what you see in the buy, sell on the freight brokerage where it's you got to, And again, all the behaviors I talk about on my show, Kate, is stuff that I learned from and why I don't do those things anymore, because I know that cost me so much business with my shippers because I wasn't consistently showing up. I was shuffling my carrier network. I was trying to undercut them for my own benefit when in actuality, I should have been playing good cop, where it's like, hey, as a broker, all I have is my carriers. Like, I have no product if I don't have carriers to source. So for me, it's that balancing act of making sure everybody's making money in this equation and paying carriers what they need, not what I want to pay them.
Yeah, and when you let the market rule, then it's like, hey, this is what we'll offer. But the market comes and goes. And at the end of the day, you've got costs. I was saying, and people know when they come to my class, the cost of the cost of the cost.
Yeah.
So the costs are always going to be there. What if we were transparent, not just about your cost, but my cost and all the transaction cost in the middle? And we put them all down and said, well, how can we work together to actually lower our cost structure? Knowing that sometimes gas prices are going to be up, sometimes gas prices are going to be down. And so you actually win together and lose together. And what happens in a market-based environment, which is exactly what we have in the transportation space, it's very market-driven. When we have that, then when the market shifts, there's a winner or a loser. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
And so that creates that friction. And so then when we're losing, we don't like it, we come back and use tactics to try to get power. And long term, when we actually look at the cost as a cost as a cost, we're co-creating and we craft true win-win business models. We win together, we lose together. We win together, we lose together. And that's going to take out that friction. I don't feel so bad if I'm losing, if you're also losing.
Yeah, no, and I get that. And the best part about what you're describing is you can do that in a free market capitalistic society.
Absolutely. Absolutely. People tell me, it's like, oh, so capitalism's dead? Are you like some socialist? And I'm like, no. It's like, so instead of your supplier or the carrier being the enemy on the other side, no, your goal is to beat the market.
Yes.
And so,
create your own market.
Exactly.
Yes.
Create your own market. So you're working together. Why should your supply chain partner be on the opposite side of the table? The market is on the other opposite side of the table. So let's take the long road, right, and to hunker down together.
Yep.
Take the waste out of our supply chain that we're putting in this bid and transaction treadmill. Slow down, invest in the partnership, invest in transparency, invest in building trust, creating trust in those relationships so that you can feel comfortable about working together to beat the market.
Very well said, Kate. And, and again, it's like the easier route is not this path. And I think that's why so many people are doubling and tripling down on just saying, well, this is the way the industry is. Well, this isn't the way the industry has to be. You can create this. I know Kumbaya isn't going to exist. I'm not going to say we're all going to dance and run through the fields together. That doesn't exist. But you can create your own freight market inside of the macro market and run a very effective and profitable operation for all parties involved. It's just harder because you have to take those short-term sacrifices that a lot of people don't want. If you're playing the long game, if you're playing, I'm going to be in transportation for the next 25 years, you can start these tactics today. And I know we got to be mindful of your time here, and we're literally right up on it. I'm going to be in touch with you soon because we got to talk again. I want to do like an hour-long conversation with you.
I'd be delighted. We have 20 years of research, 7 books. I can talk for days.
Yes, we can.
So we'll want an hour because that's the one thing I want to leave your listeners and watchers with is that you can change the game.
Yes, you can. Amen to that. Kate, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it so much. And she'll be back. And thank you again. And as you can see, she's not wearing orange because she's a professor at the University of Tennessee. She knows it's Freight Coach Orange. It's the Orange Shirt Gang that is live and well across the nation right now, you guys. It's a movement, I'm telling you. Get on board.
Awesome. And I don't know if you study the art and science of color, but orange is the color of change.
I didn't know that at all, but you know what? I'm going to run with that. Now, I'm going to say that I did the whole time.
Such a delight to be on the show.
I appreciate it, Kate. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon. All right. And then, we're still rolling live here, Kate. So if you want to just step on out, I got my next guest, Gabe, right there. Thank you so much.
Gabe.
I appreciate it, Kate. Thank you again.
Great to see you.
You guys know
What's up,
buddy? You guys know who this is. We got more in-person guests.
We're live.
We are live. We're not stopping, man. Move the mic up to your face so they can hear you talk.
Like this, right there.
Kind of just like that. We're good. So, Gabe, this is the second time we've met in person. We met up in Minnesota when I was there last month for the Minnesota Trucking Association. But you guys are in town. Are you speaking at this? Or so? Rocket Shipping's being represented at the JFC Inland Conference.
I am not speaking. Rocket Shipping does have our VP of Revenue, Samantha Jones, speaking on how to reduce freight costs without just going for tariff negotiations, looking at a whole spectrum. And she's on a panel with 3 other leaders in the industry. I think Pitt, Ohio, Transact Technologies.
How crazy is that? Your company is being represented at one of the biggest conferences in our industry. This is just an entrepreneur founder thing. Was this on your docket ever when you started?
No, never was. And it wasn't even on my docket earlier this year. I'm like, hey, JOC, this is my first time being here, and we've got somebody on a panel speaking with some other, the chief marketing officer at Pitt, Ohio. So they're going to be talking about how you can do this without just beating up carriers, and I think that obviously is on brand with Freight Coach too. But
yes,
it's a bit surreal, and I'm really enjoying the week. So,
dude, because you guys got in, but I mean, just as you guys, everybody who's listening to this, I mean, Vitaly loves to rub it in my face, and he can hear people talking in the background and everything else, and we're improving, Vitaly, I promise. But yeah, man, it's like, dude, it's electric to be in front of people, no matter what. And it's like, I feel like, obviously with everything technology, everybody's almost like wanting to create that layer of separation. But I'm like, fuck that. Like, get in front of people. Like, because again, they'll never know how much you care until they can see how much you care when you're talking about their freight and everything else. And again, it's easy to type and hit posts on fucking social media saying you love relationships. But if you fuck up, get out there and own it. Offer to fly out somewhere. If you fuck up that, just be like, hey, I can come out there and you can yell at me to my face if you want.
Fly out to fix it. Fly out before you fix it, just to be out there.
Dude, it's very true. So you put out a post, was it yesterday, about Q4, your predictions and everything. I love the fact that you were just fucking coming straight for it. You're not trying to paint a narrative or ploy, anything like that. So what are you seeing right now, current market, from the LTL side? Because that's where you guys are very heavy in. You're getting out there in other avenues and everything.
And mostly LTL.
Yeah. But what are you seeing from that regard right now, man? Because again, Gabe is obviously the resident LTL expert here at the Freight Coach Network and everything Freight Coach, because he fucking loves LTL more than anybody I've ever met. And more power to him. But like, again, man, from the LTL perspective, what are you seeing out there? Is there a big shift that has happened?
Yeah, I think tonnage is down, number of shipments are down, and the one metric that I watch that isn't like reported on every day is just missed pickup percentages. And so like the last 2 years, it was like 20 to 30% of all the freight got missed every day. And so if we had 500 shipments, 100 of them had to be rescheduled. That was just due to capacity and the drivers filling up, or just driver shortages, all of the impacts of the last couple of years. But missed pickups are way down. Internally, we're at like 5 to 10% of shipments that are getting missed, and on some of them, it's because it's a long route. I do also watch on the ground for LTL. Like, if we have a new shipper come on and it's easy to get a carrier out there who's never been out there, and they pick up first day for us, I look at that and I look at trends and I say they want revenue.
Yeah.
I also obviously see XPO's CEO, the new one, talking about their pricing for revenue instead of margin enhancement. And so all of those factors, they know that Q4 might be masked with like a really big uptick in e-commerce and like buying, but Q1 might be kind of ugly for just normal volumes, right? And so it could be a recession, it could be a normalization. I've seen a couple people call it normalization, but human behavior, human nature is like we're used to now. So anything that is less than now, people are going to react a certain way to the market.
Yeah, and it was, so Dean Croakey led off the conference here today with DAT giving his market insight and updates and everything else. And again, I've had Dean on the show numerous times. I talked to Dean a lot because he's one of the smartest people I've ever met. And, but he's talking about that as well, is like his advice to carriers today was make sure you have your truck payments for January, February, March in the bank before the end of this year, because he's seen another drastic shift that's out there. Yes, it's a normalization, but like with elevated costs and everything that are out there, you got to be prepared, because again, and another shipper trend that we're seeing out there, and I don't know, this is why I needed Jamie from Joe Rogan to pull this up. There's a guy out here who has a morning show who's been talking about this, about how customers have truly identified who their real partners are, who didn't gouge the market, who didn't fuck them over with service, who didn't do any of that stuff. They showed up and had their back when most people were running for the fucking hills.
Yeah, and now they're just like, they're giving them protected lanes now, and if you're not going back to the shippers and giving, you know, the market back right now, then you're screwed too. So like, you need to be going back to your shippers and saying, this is where the market holds it now.
And you know, what's your perception on this? Because I've always kind of, not always, again, I've learned the hard way on a lot of this stuff, so I got to remind myself that. I've always been, I would rather be the first to the party on a rate reduction, because I feel like in my experience, customers have let me keep that higher rate. Even if you were my competition and came in $100 less, they're going to be like, well, Chris was here 3 weeks ago with this. We're going to keep funneling him business. Do you see that at your level in the LTL market?
In the LTL market, it's not quite the same as like a one-day rate, the next day it's gone type of thing.
Yeah.
And I do think being first to the party is only if you're in this for the long term. Right?
Yeah.
If you're in it for the short term, if you're going to bounce companies, they're just trying to make profit.
Make
They're
your
never
money.
going back for a reduction. But
make it easier for companies like Rocket Shipping.
They have to get in the door, and then we keep it. But no, on LTL, it started in June, like starting the RFP cycles, and I was posting on LinkedIn, hey, it's time to go to bid, because it's a 60-day cycle to bid and all of the paperwork. But the reductions are coming in hot and heavy now. Yeah. And then the second thing is, if you don't have dynamic LTL pricing, you need it, because that is the ticket for when the market flips, you get it that same day. So there's a few carriers that give dynamic rating, and they are wanting freight right now. They're filling trucks, and they're like, hey, we need freight out of Seattle, and they're doing it on sale. Yeah. But if you don't have dynamic rating in your TMS, then you're missing out on that.
So how does somebody compete with that? Like, how does that broker out there, you know, again, you have an XPO who obviously everybody knows who they are, coming out and saying, we're fucking about revenue. Mm-hmm. How does somebody like, you know, I'll just use yourself as an example. How do you compete with that? How do you massage that with your customers? If a customer comes to you and says, hey, XPO's saying this.
Yeah, well, I mean, what we do at Rocket Shipping is we manage. So, like, if XPO's doing that, I go to shippers and I go to my clients or I go to prospects and I say, are you using FedEx? XPO wants your freight. So I use it to our advantage. But that's always, like, what we do in the market is we're not a middleman, but we're a consultant to find the right carrier for their portfolio. But I think if you're just a traditional broker and you don't have XPO and they're trying to take business, you should be going out to the three competitors of XPO at the same time anyways. XPO's leading, I would say, on being aggressive for revenue, but other than FedEx, other carriers will follow. FedEx, with their global issues right now, I don't know what they're going to do for pricing strategy. With that, I didn't expect that. So I think that XPO's main competitors, Saia, Old Dominion, ABF, will be doing the same thing. And so it's going to be in the shipper's favor again for LTL for a while. And it's the one thing that I would like to say is that it's not how much you ship anymore. It's shipper of choice. Over the last 2 years, it's like, hey, do we have the EDI or do we have API? Yeah. Do we have EBOL so we know what freight we're getting before we pick it up? Those shippers are getting the discounts first. That's it. It's not just volume anymore in LTL.
Dude, it's I love it because, again, like for me, LTL was never my strong suit, and it still isn't my strong suit. And it's a different beast, though, because I feel like that's one of those things that a lot of sales reps leverage to kind of get in the door. Because it seems like that's the one that, I don't want to say it's the easiest because it's not the easiest, but that's like the thing that a lot of people want to push more than anything.
Yeah.
It's like they almost built up a resistance against full truckload at that point.
I think so. And then like full truckload, it's not the same skill set even. You have to have that's why you have multiple people at a company. So
yeah, no, that's very true, man. So what's your guys' approach? How are you guys going to attack? I mean, this next 6 months might be tough to even put out there, but like, are you guys essentially at like from an operational standpoint, hey, next 30 days, this is how we're going to do it, and then do you guys reset and relook and reassess? Or
no? I mean, I have two VPs that kind of do that, and then I'm just out there. I'm thinking into June of next year right now.
Gotcha.
And my strategy for the market is to diversify our offerings a bit. So like we're getting into truckload, and then we have a TMS offering that we've been rolling out, and so for some of our enterprise clients, we're allowing them to manage their tariffs in their platform, and even if it's not billing to us, to really build what we've had as an operations team and say, hey, right now, if you're looking at budgets, besides just freight costs up front, what other costs are there? Well, there's operational support and customer service. And Rocket Shipping and other companies can do fractional logistics support so that they can, if they're doing 20 orders a day and they grow to 40, they normally need 2 or 3 more people. They can use Rocket Shipping, keep the same 2 people, and then go 20 orders more. They're not paying us for the labor. They're paying us, we're making, our living off of the freight and the management side. So that's where we're looking at. It's just fractional support, and then obviously the pricing negotiations, having carrier relationships. Right now, a lot of shippers we're talking to are like, hey, which carrier should we be bidding with, and why, and what regions? And so we come in there with an approach that's, a couple of nationals, a couple of regionals, and then we'll manage it all in one TMS to save them on that freight. 2 years ago, that didn't work as well. But now coming off of this, the negotiations are a lot easier because we have the relationships.
So how are you, from an employee headcount standpoint, how are you attacking this? Because I think that you see this kind of becoming a thing now where people are getting laid off or they're being let go or whatever that looks like. Like from your standpoint right now, how are you going to approach this? Because again, I think like a lot of people are very reactionary in their approach. They're like, oh shit, the sky's falling, fire everybody, or whatever that looks like. How are you taking this, man? I'll let you run with that.
Yeah, there's 2 approaches. You can hold on to your cash, or you can try to take the rest of the market. We're trying to take the rest of the market. We're still hiring. But I do think that it's actually going to get easier for companies like me and Rocket Shipping because the talent has been, I won't call it overpriced, but like it's been overpriced the last couple of years. If you're moving from a company, you're able to say, hey, I need this salary to move. That's going to slow down a bit on the recruiting side. And like the people who do it really well and have a really good technology offering and a suite of tools for LTL, truckload, whatever it may be, that's going to attract the top performers because the place that they're in isn't spending money or isn't expanding. And so you could either hold your cash and have cash reserves. And some of the companies I'm talking about have enough cash reserves to last for 2 years in a recession. We don't. And so the only option we have is to go attack.
No, I'm right there with you. I'm very bullish in my approach on everything right now where it's all offense because I think that most people are going to they're going to start playing defense. Yeah. They're going to be like, all right, how do we protect ourselves here? And I think in those moments, like, fucking go all in. All in.
And get creative. I don't think that you should just be spending money to hire people, right? But, like, you could use different apps or different services, different CRMs. And, like, I've heard of a couple of my competitors, like, cutting budgets on, like Zoom Info and Seamless and those types of tools. Yeah. But if you're cutting budgets on that because you see it as fluff, those are tools you need to drive revenue. There's a direct ROI on it. If there's an ROI, just go get it instead of saying, let's just cut everything except for our people and try to keep that. So, just get creative.
I'm not there with you, man. But again, it's like I feel like that's what the difference is between you founding your own thing and growing it. Yeah. Your mindset's different. And again, I'm not knocking anybody who's like taking the career route and built up through a company or anything else, but like that's my mindset too, man. Is I'm like, fuck it, we gotta win at all costs. Like I don't have a backup plan.
And Cortez burned the ships.
Yeah,
that's what it is,
dude. That's exactly it, man. There is no other approach besides this fucking working. Mm-hmm. Like, and if you're not on board with that, go somewhere else. No harm, no foul.
And team alignment with that too. Like if you're not sharing that with your team, you're not aligned with your team that everybody's got the same end goal of like not just staying in business but growing to a certain point. Then you can't do it on your own. So you have to have that alignment. And then whoever's not with it, if they're not on the same message, they'll find their way out of the organization.
Yeah. Do you think that people are at like? Maybe this is from like a leadership perspective. Do people identify themselves fairly quickly if they're not on board for the long-term vision of a company, you think?
I think I've been learning that more, and I've got some mentors who have done this before, done more than I have, and built bigger, and that seems to be the case, especially in this, labor and employment environment where for the last couple of years you could work wherever you want if you had a skill set. Now that's going to refine to the companies who are still hiring. So I think if you have the right vision and mission, vision, values of your company, the people who aren't, and it's not necessarily a knock on them, right? Yeah. Maybe they're not growth minded. Maybe they are comfortable and they do want to clock in, clock out. They maybe will find themselves being moved out. Not that they're getting fired, but they just don't feel like they're part of it. And then they align and say, hey, this isn't for me.
It's very interesting, kind of the the climate that we're in, because what you brought up earlier about talent being overpriced and everything else, and I think those are, like, that's just what I want people to realize as they're going in. I'm not saying you're not worth anything. That's not my point, but those are the first people that are looked at when things slow down. Of
a big salary is if you're on an Excel sheet and you're the top salary,
especially if you're not performing the way you think, because everybody always thinks they're fucking the hardest worker, they're this, they're that, they're the end all be all to an organization, and I'm guilty of that in my career. I never realized how little I actually worked until I started my own shit. Like, I'm going to be honest.
That's pretty true, yeah.
It's because, like, when you're out there, like, you're in that structure of working for somebody else, you're like, oh, I'm this, I'm that. Yeah. Until the paychecks fucking stop rolling in and you're fully responsible for
there's no 8-hour workday anymore.
Yeah, exactly. There's no I need a rest day. I need to take a minute here. That doesn't exist anymore. But I think you need to approach this right now where, if you're performing, you'll be all right. Like, people will pay for talent no matter what.
Especially if you're performing on a small base with a variable comp that you can earn as much as you want, uncapped. All sales reps should always be uncapped. But the big bases that some of the people have been able to secure over the last 2 years, bases are dangerous if it's too big, because the company won't see an ROI in their mind. I'd rather there's a lot of dangerous sales reps who can earn commission only, who I'd be looking for them right now too. Like, those are the ones who are going to change this market, because they're maybe not ready to start their own business or never had that ambition, but they know how to work on commission. And if they can work a comp plan, you just have to set it up so that if they work the comp plan, it benefits you and them.
Yeah, dude, I'm right there with you. And I feel like I say fuck way too much to even ever be considered to work for someone. Maybe Rocket Chicken would hire me one day, but
we'd make an exception.
Yeah, it's one of those things though, man. But I just think that as a sales rep, is somebody who I love knowing that I control my own destiny. Yeah. I love knowing that I will make uncapped commission.
Salespreneur, basically.
Dude, I mean, that's exactly it. I know there's a lot of people out there, because again, like, entrepreneurship, going out there, having everything on the line, knowing you eat last. Yeah. I eat last in my companies, no matter what. But it's one of those situations that I feel like, as a sales rep, dude, don't handcuff me to a comp. Make my comp plan make me want to sell even more.
Yeah, and don't go have a meeting saying, hey, this comp plan doesn't work anymore. Like, you got to figure it out. It's important to figure it out at the front end, so that whatever commission structure or whatever climbing commission you put together, that the company actually benefits from that because of the growth, not just the rep or just the company. So
yeah, dude, I'm right there with you, man. I think that's going to be a solid approach for anybody. Like, I know for a fact, man, it's not going to happen, because I'll never work for anybody ever again. But as I grow out my teams and everything, man, I want to build out an incentivization structure where people are motivated to work. And I want those people who are like, I believe enough in myself. I don't need a fucking salary. Yeah. Keep your fucking salary. Keep that drug that you want to feed me to put me in a comatose state of mind. Dude, I want people out there who want to fucking hustle every day. Yeah. I think it's a different environment. It's a different mindset, but more people have it in them than they think. Because it's not.
Sometimes it's just out of necessity, and then you realize you had it. Like, that's when I first started in sales. I was on a salary, and then I went to a different company. It was commissioned only, and my rent was $1,100, and I was making $1,000 a month. So credit cards only go so far. You had to make money,
dude. And that's the thing, man. Is I think you really understand what you're made of when you're in those instances. And and same thing for me, man. I think like that was my big push in business, in starting everything here, was I didn't have an option, man. It was fucking COVID. Nobody was hiring.
Bad timing led to this.
Yeah, but it was perfect timing. Mm-hmm. It was the best timing. It was the best thing that happened to me. These last 2 years have been the best opportunity out there, because otherwise I never would have done it. If it was a normal market, somebody would have thrown a 6-figure salary at me with a little bit of bonus, and I would have taken it. Yeah. I would have bid, but that fortunately didn't happen. It didn't arise to that, and that's what pushes this all along. We're literally in front of a door.
It's a draft.
I know it is, man. But dude, what's next for Rocket Shipping here for the remainder of this year? What are you guys really gonna fucking? I know it's all offense. I know it's all that, man.
Yeah.
But
I think it's just, the next thing we're doing is we have a truckload brokerage now. We're pushing that pretty hard, but there's a lot of factors, and we'll talk about this. I'll talk about it on LinkedIn quite a bit. We're just going to build a brokerage kind of out in the open, and it's going to show how to get bonded and how to get an MC number and what that means and how many digits that MC number is and why it matters and all of those nuances. But for revenue side, we're all on offense, but we're using companies like Sellex, which is like fractional SDRs, but they have a platform that's like outreach. Okay. So it's fractional SDRs that you can hire, pay for appointments, and it's outreach inside the platform that your team can use. And we're starting with them on October 4th. And so like you can scale up and down with them.
Hell yeah.
And then you can hire the reps if it works, right? And so it's like, C.H. Robinson and some other companies have great training. I can't focus on that type of training right now. I need to hire people that either have already done it or want to come in green and learn how to sell, and we'll teach them freight. So like C.H. Robinson, obviously, or those types of companies, they have a training academy. And in fact, they probably want more new people than they want people to stay forever.
Yeah.
But that's not our strategy. We want people to come in. We'll train them over time on freight knowledge, but we're going to give them the tools of selling right away and bring revenue on.
I love it. Gabe, thank you so much for your time, as always. And we'll definitely be doing this again soon. And I'm going to bring Mark on here for the last couple of minutes of the show.
Oh, you're going long today.
Yeah, dude, we're going longer than normal, man. Let's do this. All right. You guys know Mark knows. He's coming to sit down. He's reporting.
Try not to drop any F-bombs, but I know you crew out there would love it if I did.
No, that's all right. I drop all the F-bombs. Maybe I need to come a little bit closer to the mic there, sir. Just because it is, these mics are a little sensitive with all the background noise. Dude, you're out here as well. So from your perspective, right now, Mark, obviously Mark's with Port TMS. Check him out, you guys. Hit him up without a doubt. Connect with Mark and Port on LinkedIn and everything. But you guys had a big rollout here recently.
Yes, lots of rollouts.
Yeah, I know it's a new thing. But what was this?
Well, the last two that we did was we did the M5 rate engine that's built into the software where you can actually query EAT, a number of different rating sources as you're building your shipments. But one of the really cool ones we just deployed this past week is the document accelerator. And what that does is as soon as you deliver your shipment inside a port, it sends out a link to the carrier to upload their documents. And as soon as those documents are uploaded by the carrier, it kicks off the customer invoicing. So that's so we really feel like, we take a lot of feedback from our customers. We work with them really closely. Being able to get documents from the carriers as quickly as possible so that you can turn around and invoice the customer as soon as possible is like a key thing. Everybody knows that. You got to get paid.
Yeah.
So we built this tool, which is kind of the beginning stages of our carrier portal, where carriers will be able to come in and bid on shipments. So, yeah, a lot of cool stuff going on. I mean, I think the industry, I was just in the conference, they're all talking about, are we in a recession? Are we not in a recession? Yeah. I don't know what. Technically, we're in a recession, guys. Okay, there's no getting over it. Yeah. Okay, we're in a fucking recession. There you go.
Yeah, there we go. We got one.
Okay, I don't give a shit if somebody's trying to fudge the numbers in Washington D.C. to say, oh no, we're not really in a recession. Well, the hell if we're not.
Yeah.
Okay, we are in a recession. It's not terrible by any means, and we're going to get through it. And I think that this industry that we're in, the people that call Chris and everything that he does understands that we're the bulletproof industry. Shit's got to move.
Yes.
And we're the ones that are going to move it, whether you're, whether I'm building software tools to help people move it smarter, faster, easier, or it's, the guys that actually are the intermediaries in our industry that are moving stuff down the road. So it's pretty cool time. And again, whatever we're going through right now, it's going to change.
Yes.
And we'll be there to support everybody, and everybody that listens to Chris will be out there just kicking ass and taking fucking names.
There we go. We got another one in there. But no, I mean, that's the thing though, Mark, is it's like, we can sit here and talk and speculate, like everybody, it's easy to point at data, sometimes and say like, oh my gosh, this is what it is. My customers never gave a fuck what the market was. They needed execution. And that's what I just want people to focus on. No matter what, you guys, we got to continue to show up. We got to continue to execute and focus, because if we don't, your competition is. And there's no other way to spin that and everything.
Yeah, it's not. Well, everybody that's here at this conference, which is a really great one, it's got a good mix of people from the industry. I haven't heard anybody saying I'm getting my ass kicked. Everybody's saying everything's going great. We're, 10 times, 5 times hiring people. I just heard Gabe. I mean, Gabe's hiring people. He hires as many people as he could that were qualified, because he knows that those people will be able to put freight on the boards and money in the bank for them. So, we're just a resilient group of people. We like to drop the F-bomb. We like to roll. hard and work hard and play hard.
Yeah, dude, that's exactly it, Mark. And we're just going to be wrapping up here in the last couple of seconds. But like, what's your big? I don't want to call it a prediction, Mark, but because you guys move a lot of shipments as a whole. What do you think is a solid strategy for a broker through Q4 of this year?
I would focus on talent acquisition. Find those talented people out there that have experience in the industry, overpay for them, and let them produce. I think talent acquisition, if you can focus on that, finding really talented people is key. I have talented people that work for me, and I do the best I can to retain them and let them know, like, we really value you. So, you're valuable people. Value them, let them know, that you care about them and that they're a valuable piece of your organization. And then look for really talented individuals that haven't been appreciated by other companies. You mentioned like the C.H. Robinsons of the world, the XPOs of the world. They kind of let these talented people go because they kind of phase out. They make too much money. I got to get rid of them. So look for talented people, bring them into your organization, and let them help you grow your business.
Yeah, amen to that. Well, that's it for today, you guys. This is the Freight Coach Morning Show, the top morning show in transportation, coming to you live from the JOC Inland Conference, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, every single weekday. At the end of it all, you guys, if you guys see value in it, share the show, all right? Because that's how this is going to continue to grow and continue to get out there, because if you guys see value in it, your network's going to see value in it as well. I appreciate you guys all so much, and we'll be talking.